Welcome back, everybody. Let's continue in our series on Moshiach. Today, we're going to be talking about the process by which a person becomes Moshiach. In other words, the way that they can reveal their inner Moshiach from the beginning all the way to the end of the evolution of this person's soul. The neshama of a person has a series of development that it needs to go through before it is able to reveal itself fully in the body as the inner Messiah, the inner Mashiach of that person's world. And we've talked about this before, how the same way that there is a collective Moshiach in the world at large, there is also a microcosmic Moshiach that each person has in their own life. So we need to learn how to bring our individual Mashiach before the collective Mashiach can be fully revealed. And that's why I've employed this statement before in this series, that Moshiach actually needs you. Not just that we need Moshiach, but rather his very revelation depends on you to bring his revelation in your own world first, which means to reveal your own neshama, your own soul, in your own body. And then you can help others learn how to do this for themselves as well. And so you can help to bring the world closer to the collective Messiah by really focusing on your own portion in this process and then helping others to focus on their portions in this process. Because Moshiach won't come if we just sit around and wait. Rather, he will come when we bring him, which requires very arduous work in building our kli, preparing our vessel to be able to receive the light of the neshama, because that's the prerequisite. Now, in today's class, we're going to speak about the general outline of how a person reaches this level of completion. And the imagery that we're going to be using to address this topic is from a very ancient adage. I searched up, I couldn't find the origin to this sentence or to this riddle, but it goes like this: it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Now, I did some research, I couldn't find the exact origin. It seems to come from some sort of a Chinese tradition. It's an ancient Chinese tradition, but it's not clear exactly from where it comes. But nevertheless, the symbols that are used in this metaphor, if you could call it, are very relevant to Torah and to Judaism. Just to repeat it once again, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Now, each of these characters, both the warrior and the garden, represent something in our lives. On the one hand, when we're talking about a warrior, we don't believe in the concept of killing, and the purpose of war is not to kill and to cause more chaos and to cause more blood. Rather, we're talking here more about a spiritual war. And this spiritual war is against one's own inner evil inclination. So that's really the primary enemy of a person and the primary meaning of a warrior in Judaism from the Torah's point of view. A true warrior is one who wages war against their inner enemy and subdues their inner enemy. You cannot kill, you don't want to kill your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclinations. Rather, the goal is to transform those negative desires and negative temptations into positive ones by first subduing them, which means you have to go to war and subdue the evil inclination, the same way that there were 10 plagues in Egypt. In order to subdue the ego of Pharaoh, a person must similarly go to war against their inner Pharaoh. And then eventually, once you've subdued that power, it is now possible to transform slowly, to educate, to teach this inner Pharaoh to become a good Pharaoh. Believe it or not, it is actually possible to transform your evil inclination to become a good inclination, so that it actually can help you serve God rather than merely pose as an obstacle in your way when you want to serve God. So, a real warrior is defined by a person who goes out to war with their inner evil inclination. So that's a warrior in this context. And then when we're talking about a gardener, we're not talking about someone bad. It's not bad to be a gardener, but nevertheless, it is a more simple way of living life. They are not skilled in the art of war. They don't know how to survive in a war zone. Of course, they can survive in a peaceful setting. That's why they are gardeners. They can plant trees and they can grow fruits and they can survive from their skills in agriculture and farming. But whenever it comes to war, they are truly unskilled and they don't really stand much of a chance until they are placed in that environment and they're forced to learn how to survive in a war zone, which means how to become a warrior. They must learn to get strong, to increase in strength and courage, and face their inner war. Now, so those are the two different types of characters that we each have in our lives. The gardener represents that aspect of us which is pure. That aspect of us which knows peace, which knows serenity, and simplicity. That, my friends, is the neshama, before it comes down into this world. A gardener represents a peaceful person in a natural setting in the woods or in the nature, and he's planting and sowing seeds and reaping harvest and surviving in a very peaceful and serene environment. That's the neshama in the garden. What garden are we talking about? None other than the Garden of Eden. Every single soul originates from the Garden of Eden. It doesn't know war. It doesn't know bloodshed. It doesn't know evil. It doesn't know darkness. It doesn't know war. Because it lives and it was brought up in the garden, which is a peaceful, serene environment. The Garden of Eden is in peace. It's a place that exists in the spiritual worlds. It's the world of souls. All neshamot originate from this very high level of spiritual world called Olam Bria, for those who are interested. The world of Bria, the world of creation, represents this lofty level from which all neshamot, all souls, really come from. And so they are brought up and raised in a serene environment. But a gardener in a garden doesn't really serve the function for which God created the world. God did not just create the world for people to enjoy a peaceful life for free without earning it and without work. Don't get me wrong, it takes hard work to be a gardener and to till the soil and to sow seeds, and yes, it's not an easy job. But whenever there's no real opposition, there's no real friction posed by an inner enemy, or any enemy for that matter, it becomes a very, there's no real substance, there's no real meaning to the existence at all. You're just here to reap benefits and there's no real struggle, there's no real meaning in life. That's how it feels, and that's really how it is. It's for this reason that the neshama, the gardener, is sent out from the Garden of Eden into the war zone. For those who have already caught up to the metaphor by now, you should recognize that the war zone is this world. This world is the war zone. And those are the two opposing environments that this neshama has to face. First, it grows up in the Garden of Eden, and there's not really much going on in there, which is why God sends him out from the garden and into the war zone to learn how to fend for himself in a hostile environment. This world is not a peaceful environment. In fact, there is no real rest in this world whatsoever, except for once a week on the day of Shabbat, where there is a taste of Olam Haba. The Gemara explains that Shabbat is 1/60th of Olam Haba. Therefore, once a week, there is an opportunity to experience true rest and true menucha. But even that is but a taste of Olam Haba. Just 1/60th. Now, all other days of the week, being starting from Saturday evening until Friday evening, those 6 days, or from Yom Rishon to Yom Shishi, those are your opportunities to wage war, win battles, overcome, transform, build, and in more simple terms, earn a spot in Olam Haba. Earn the light which you actually do receive on Shabbat. That very menucha that we were talking about, that feeling of 1/60th of Olam Haba, that taste of rest and menucha that happens once a week, depends on the war that you fought during the week, which really was for the sake of building a malchut, building a vessel with which you could receive the light on Shabbat. And that's similarly what Olam Haba represents. Olam Haba, the world to come, which is the Olam HaElyon, the spiritual world of a person, the true world, the future world of a person, that they will be going even after this body dies, even after this body sheds off like a skin of a snake, and your soul continues on. Where does it go? Where does it go after you pass away? It goes to whichever environment you prepared for it while you were here. While the soul is in this body, you have the opportunity to build your Olam Haba by, again, waging war. And that's something we need to learn, because we are in many ways like a gardener in a war zone. We're like simple people who don't yet know the art of war and how to be victorious in our own inner wars. So we need to learn. We are the gardener. We are the gardener. We are a soul in a war zone, and we have not yet learned how to become victorious and how to prevail, how to subdue our enemy. Unless you have. But I can tell you that I have not. So I am most definitely a gardener, and if anybody else fits into that category, then this is the right place for you, because we're going to learn in this channel, and as we have been bringing it up video after video, how to become a warrior in this war zone. Because we are in a war zone. Every moment you're faced with the challenge of free will to choose good over evil. Every single moment is another opportunity to choose good over evil, which means another moment to serve God, rather than serving the Elohim Acherim, the false gods, which really are trying to control you and use you for their own negative intentions. Not to scare anybody, but yes, in this channel we talk about spiritual things. There are spiritual entities that seek to use human function. They hijack our internal systems and control us to do things that are terrible for our own sake, terrible for our family, terrible for the world, terrible for our future. We become pushed or moved to do things that we wouldn't have otherwise done. Why? Because there exists this force of Elohim Acherim, false gods. But they have zero control over a person that has learned the art of war. Because the art of war is a discipline that the Torah actually teaches. If we didn't know from the Torah how to wage war, how to win a war, then we would be screwed in the current world events that Israel is faced with enemies across the globe. If we didn't have the Torah to teach us how to win a war, then we wouldn't have stood a chance against all of these enemies that surround us on all 360 degrees of the state of Israel. On all sides, we are surrounded by enemies that desire to annihilate us. A small Jewish country, the size of New Jersey, surrounded by packs of wolves that are hungry and starving. That is the reality that the state of Israel is currently positioned in. We are like a gardener in a war zone, and we are surrounded on all fronts by war, by those who seek our own destruction. The forces of the Elohim Acherim that try to bring despair and depression amongst the children of Israel by making them believe, falsely so, that they cannot win, that they cannot prevail over the enemy. And that is actually true. On our own, we cannot defeat the enemy. Only with the help of Hashem. Only with the help of Hashem can one become a true warrior. A warrior does not reach the status of a warrior by his bare hands. Rather, by placing his trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu to fight on his behalf. Of course, he needs to strengthen himself, and that's why he needs to become a gibor. Before you can become victorious in your inner wars and inner battles against the evil inclination, or even in a physical war, an external war, you must first learn how to set boundaries, discipline, and to strengthen yourself. Because without strength, the enemies can hijack and take root within you because you're weak. And you can't be good if you're weak. You can't win if you're weak. Vulnerable? Yes, we can be vulnerable in many ways. It's not bad for a person to be vulnerable. But it's bad for their vessel to be vulnerable. It's bad if their vessel is weak. It's bad if their vessel is cracked. Because then they are subject to influence by external forces called klipot, chitzonim. Those who are waiting for the moment that we cause a defilement in our vessel so that they can come and suck our energy. The moment that the vessel becomes contaminated, it is specifically then that the Elohim Acherim have dominion. They have dominion over that particular blemish. And it's from there that they're able to enter and take root within you. But if your vessel is strong, if you have grown up and learned the art of war, the gardening days are behind you. It is now time to focus on subduing the enemy, so that way we can merit our place in the Garden of Eden, which is where we were trying to get to the whole time. We started from the Garden of Eden, and we were sent out into the world of exile, to the world of war. And through learning the skills that the Torah teaches us of how to subdue the enemy, and by finally winning, we then merit to re-enter Olam Haba, the Garden of Eden, but this time, we have earned it. That's the difference between a gardener in a garden and a warrior in a garden. The gardener did not earn his spot in the garden. Rather, he was born there. A warrior fought for that spot. He shed blood and tears. And he literally sacrificed his own nefesh. Not figuratively, not metaphorically. Literally. Sacrificed his own soul for the sake of sanctifying God. By building this vessel that he has been working towards, he has earned himself his spot in the Garden of Eden. So you start out as a gardener in a garden. Then you become a gardener in a war. Until you learn how to become a warrior in this war. And finally, you become a warrior in a garden. That's the imagery that this metaphor, this riddle, presents to us when you analyze it from a Kabbalistic lens. It's beautiful, and it goes very deep. It's a perfect metaphor to understand the relationship between this physical world and the spiritual world, the Olam HaElyon. Olam Haba is similarly called Olam HaElyon, the upper world, the higher world. Olam Haba is not physically somewhere else, and it's not physically at a different time. Rather, it is right here and it is right now. It only depends on your ability to perceive it, which means your vessel. If you have the vessel, you have the capacity to receive the light of Olam Haba, the light of the truth, the light of Hashem, the light of your neshama, the light of Moshiach. But if you cannot see Olam Haba, if you cannot feel like you are connected to the neshama, if you do not see the truth and you do not feel connected, it's only for one reason. You don't yet have the vessel. You haven't yet fought the war. You haven't yet learned how to become a warrior for the sake of building this vessel, which would then allow you to see and live in Olam Haba. You can be physically here in this world and still be in Olam Haba. Olam Haba is here, and Olam Haba is now. It's not somewhere else, it's not sometime else. The future itself, when we're talking about Olam Haba, the future world, the world to come, can be the world that is, can be brought into reality through our toiling, through our efforts in waging war. Now, I want to address one other thing. A lot of people are uncomfortable with the concept of a war, especially in today's day and age, with Israel going to a war against its enemies, not because it has a choice, but because it's forced to. It's faced and confronted by its enemies, and it is without a choice. It must fight. It must succeed. It must excel at war. So, for those who think that war is inherently bad and war is a necessary evil, the Torah happens to introduce to us an alternative explanation. Yes, of course, any death is unfortunate and tragic. Even those of terrorists, even those of people who seek our destruction, even their death is tragic. The loss of any human life is tragic. But at the same time, it's needed if they pose a threat to our very existence. Even a threat. If they pose a threat, then you must eliminate that threat. That's why the Torah teaches us about how to go to war, because this is a part of this world. This world is a world of war. Whether you're comfortable about it or you're not comfortable about it, that is the nature of this world. At every moment, there is a battle going on between good and evil, whether internal or external. So, one of the things that I'm trying to show is that truly, war is not inherently bad. Some types of war are actually good. And don't take my words out of context to say that war is good and that killing is good and that chaos is good. Chas v'shalom. But I'm talking specifically about the war of Moshiach. Because that gardener that we were talking about has to learn to become a warrior. We must learn to become a warrior. The inner war is the real war, and the outer war is merely a branch, it's an effect of the inner war. If we have prevailed over our inner war, we have no need to be afraid of the outer war. In fact, if you subdue your inner enemy, you have subdued your outer enemy. Because you've faced the heart of evil. The heart of evil is not outside, it's inside. It's called the heart of evil for a reason, because our heart is evil from youth. Until such a time when we transform this heart by going to war with the Yetzer Hara that lives in this heart, kicking him out, and filling the heart with chesed and fear of God. When you fill your heart with yirat shamayim, with the awe of heaven, a fear of God, the Yetzer Hara is simply unable to penetrate into the heart. If, God forbid, the heart weakens itself and doesn't fear God, and it welcomes the Yetzer Hara, it paves the way and it allows the negative forces to influence it, You've basically surrendered to the Yetzer Hara. You've surrendered to the enemy. You've lost the war, not because you were weak, but because you gave up. It's not over when you lose a battle. It's over when you give up. And we lose battles. That's part of the process of learning how to become a warrior, learning how to become victorious, learning how to bring Moshiach, learning how to reveal our soul. That's part of the process, is losing battles and failures. Some failures bigger than others. Some more damaging than others. Some that take longer to repair than others. But nevertheless, the damage can be healed. The wounds can be repaired. Because when we get back up after we fall, the Yetzer Hara has what to be afraid of. Because you're not going to put up with its shenanigans, to put it nicely. You're not going to put up with the shenanigans of the Yetzer Hara. Okay, you got me once. You got me twice. I'm going to make sure that you can never get me again. When I fall and I make a mistake, I should learn from the mistake. It's well understood that we will make mistakes. That's part of the world. You cannot come into this world and not make a mistake. There is no such thing as a person. Even a tzaddik, by the way. Even a tzaddik has to fall at least 7 times and get up each time in order to reach the stature of a righteous person. So it is something that's built into the fabric of this world. Not the upper world, not the garden. The Garden of Eden doesn't have a war, doesn't have conflict. And there is no need for struggle. There is no need for any of this type of imagery of harsh, battling and going to war. That is something that is unique to this particular realm of existence. Olam Hazeh. That's why it's called Olam HaSheker, the world of lies. The war is about truth versus lies. It's a war of truth. It's a war of God. And that's the only war that's justified. All other war, all other types of conflict, all other types of going to subdue an enemy. You call him your enemy, but is he really your enemy? Look at your foe, the one that you call your enemy. Is he your real enemy, or are you your real enemy? Now, of course, whenever we're faced with psychopaths who want to murder you, you have to defend. And not only defend, you have to take preemptive action to prevent that from even happening in the first place. So I'm not saying that the external war is meaningless. What I am saying is that the inner war takes precedent. If you want to win the outer war, you better focus on first the inner war, subduing your inner enemy. And once you've faced the heart of evil, you can face any evil outside. You can face any outer enemy. And they will be afraid. They will recognize your courage. They will recognize your assurance, your trust that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who fights. And you don't really have control. They will recognize and they will fear you. So first we must learn to become a Gibor. Strong. Build the vessel. Strong vessel. In order to then be able to receive the light. Which is what we call Chesed. So when you have Gevura and you have Chesed, that's when you reach Tiferet. Tiferet is the revelation of the Neshama in the Guf. Tiferet represents the alignment of the soul and the body. That means you've brought Olam Haba, the Olam Ha'elyon, down and merged with the Olam HaTachton. Your upper and lower statures unite into one. You integrate your soul into your body. You reveal Moshiach in your world and you bring Olam Haba, because your Olam Haba is that portion that you have earned through the wars that you fought while in this world. And that's a limited amount of time we have. We're allotted 70 years at best. And Bezrat Hashem, with the advancement of science, the advancement of technology, and the increase of our merits with the help of God, of learning Torah, Hashem should grant us longer life, give us more time, because we've got a lot of work to do. And we should not allow that to make us scared. Rather, we should understand, as Moses taught Yahushua, that we must have courage, and we must recognize that it is not us who is fighting, rather it's God who is fighting on our behalf. Otherwise, we wouldn't stand a chance. Our enemies are too numerous. Those who seek our detriment are great in number, but they don't stand a chance against God, in case that wasn't clear. God, Hashem, the Creator, the Holy One, blessed be He, it is through Him that we reach salvation. It is through Him that we can redeem this broken inner world, and with the help of Him, to heal this broken outer world for all humanity, one person at a time. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it resonated with the overarching theme that Moshiach needs you, because the truth is that outer revelation of Moshiach in this world, the collective Moshiach, depends on our avoda in our inner war, our inner world of bringing our inner Moshiach. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next class.